When many of us hear the word fasting, we often think of starving ourselves, but this is not true. In fact, intermittent fasting has been practiced throughout all of human history. However, until recently, in many ways, has been virtually forgotten. Thankfully, science is beginning to catch up with the ancient wisdom. And many of us today are now rediscovering this age-old dietary intervention. So what is it? Well, fasting means to deliberately withhold the intake of food for health, spiritual, or other reasons. Now, depending upon what type of fasting you're doing, it can be done for any period of time, hours, days, weeks, or even months at a time. In fact, if approached properly, intermittent fasting can be done as a normal part of everyday life. So what are some of the benefits of intermittent fasting? Well, there are numerous benefits, most of which have been known since ancient times. And these fasting periods were often called purifications, detoxifications, or cleanses. And people understood that periods of abstinence from food would clear their body systems of toxins and rejuvenate them to full health. And today, science now tells us that intermittent fasting can lead to a reduction in body fat. Intermittent fasting does this by allowing your body to use its stored energy or fat supplies. It's important to understand that there is nothing wrong with this. It's simply how our bodies work. In fact, it's been essential for our survival as a species during times of famine and other threats. It's also what cats, dogs, and lions and bears do too. However, with most of us eating every third hour, which is often recommended, our bodies use the incoming food energy instead of the stored fat, and so we become overweight. To restore balance and to lose weight, we need to increase the amount of time spent burning food energy, and we can do this through intermittent fasting. In this way, intermittent fasting is so much more superior to dieting because diets very rarely get results, which is why 97% of people fail. They're complicated, they're limited in their availability, they're expensive, they're time consuming, they're inconvenient, especially if they have to go and make separate meals for other people in your family. They're hard to stick to and they are often downright unenjoyable. Intermittent fasting, on the other hand, actually works. And it's super simple, it's available everywhere. It's free, it saves you time, it's easy to stick to, and is enjoyable because you're not excluding any of the foods that you love. But there are lots of other benefits to intermittent fasting as well, and far too many to go through in detail here. But just some others that are worth mentioning include lowered blood sugar and insulin levels, improved blood cholesterol profiles, possible reversal of type 2 diabetes, possible definitely increased energy, improved mental clarity and concentration, a possible reduction in Alzheimer's disease, really interesting research coming out there. Definitely a healthier microbiome, gut health, which is the key to a strong immune system. And possible reduction of inflammation, which is the root cause of all disease. The stimulation of growth hormone and activation of cellular cleansing, both of which decrease the effects of aging, which is something we'd all like. And possible longer life. And so as you can see, there are so many reasons for making fasting a part of your life. So now that you know why intermittent fasting is really important, I'm going to explain how we can go about doing so both safely and effectively. Okay, so let's start with the safety aspects of fasting first. And there are a few categories of people that should not fast. And this includes any children under 18 years of age because you need extra nutrients to grow. Also, anyone who has an eating disorder like anorexia, or anyone who is underweight, which is defined by having a body mass index of below 18.5. Now, body mass index is a simple calculation using a person's height and weight. And if you want to determine your own body mass index, then you'll need to divide your weight in kilograms by your height in meters squared. Also, anyone who is pregnant should also avoid fasting, as you need extra nutrients for your child. And the same goes for anyone who is breastfeeding as well. You also need the extra nutrients for your child, so you shouldn't be fasting. Also, if you have any of the following conditions, you may be able to fast, but only if you have medical supervision. And this includes anything like taking prescription medication, if you have gout or high uric acid, if you have type 1 or type 2 diabetes, or if you have any serious medical conditions such as heart disease, liver disease, or kidney disease. In order to play it safe, however, I would always recommend you to speak to your doctor before beginning any intermittent fasting program. Okay, so assuming that you are not in any of these categories or don't have any one of the following conditions that I just mentioned, then you should be good to go and give fasting a try. So how do we do it? Well, if you're new to fasting, then it's best to start with shorter fasts. And when I say shorter, I mean below 24 hours. And these are generally done more frequently as well. Some of these shorter fasts could include the 16-8 fast, which involves fasting for 16 hours of the day and then eating all of your meals within an 8-hour time window. An example would be from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., where you would typically eat 2 or 3 meals within this period. Often either electing to skip breakfast or dinner instead. Generally, this approach is done daily or every second day, but if you're just starting out, even one day a week is fine. And this is the approach I personally use a few days per week, because I find that it makes a big positive difference to my gut health as well as my energy too. I'll just skip breakfast a few mornings a week. Another short fast that you could do would be the 24 fast, which involves fasting for 20 hours off the day and then eating all of your meals within a 4-hour time period or window. An example would be from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. where you would typically eat either one large meal or 2 smaller meals within this time period. Then you have some longer fasts, and when I say longer, I mean above 24 hours. Now, these are only really recommended if you have had some experience with fasting in the past, as they can be a little bit more difficult if you're not used to fasting. And some of these longer fasts could include the 24-hour fast, which simply involves fasting for a full 24-hour period, meaning that you only eat once daily, either breakfast, lunch, or dinner. For example, if you eat lunch today, then you won't eat anything again till lunch tomorrow. Generally, you would do this 2 to 3 times per week. Or you could do something like the 5-2 fast, which involves 5 regular days followed by 2 fasting days, in which you are only allowed to eat 500 calories on each day. But these calories can be consumed at any time during the day, either through smaller meals or as a single meal. For example, if you eat 1600 calories on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but then at the start of the week on the Monday and Tuesday, you eat just 500 calories per day. That's a popular way to do it. And whilst 500 calories might not sound like a lot, if you're eating low calorie, high nutrient foods such as vegetables, which have a high water content, then you'd be surprised at how much food this really is. If I pick one of my favorite vegetables, for example, which is zucchini, well, to reach 500 calories, then you would need to eat 16 medium-sized zucchinis in one day, which is no easy feat to do. This is 4. And so what is also good about this approach is that it makes you aware of the energy content of food too, which really is an important consideration if we are trying to watch our waistlines. The 5-2 is also one of the more popular longer fasting methods as well. If you're feeling a little bit more ambitious, then you could try the 36-hour fast, which involves fasting for an entire day, which usually equates to around 36 hours of fasting, depending upon, what your last meal is. And an example of this would be to eat dinner on Monday, which is day 1, then fast for all of Tuesday, which is day 2, and then eat breakfast on Wednesday, which is day 3. And doing so avoids the temptation to overeat dinner on Tuesday or day 2, which can boost weight loss. Then beyond fasting methods such as the 36-hour fast, you have extended fasting, which involves fasting for periods greater than 48 hours. And this is much harder to do and should only be attempted if you have a good amount of experience in longer fasting methods. You also have to ensure that if you're doing this, then it must be for the right reasons. Generally, it's not recommended for periods longer than 14 days due to risks in nutritional deficiency. So only consider this under strict medical supervision if you are going to give it a go. And so, as you can see, there are lots of different fasting methods that you can try. And whilst the fasting methods that we have discussed today are by no means all of the methods available, they are some of the most common ones used today. And at the end of the day, we're all different. And so the best fasting method for you is the one that helps you to feel and function at your best. As such, whenever you're trying a new fasting method, always ensure to remain mindful of how you feel and function from moment to moment, and compare it to how you felt before you even started fasting. For example, have you found that after some days of being on a fast, that the hunger pangs that once troubled you at 3 p.m. have all but disappeared? Have you found that you now have decreased appetite in the evenings? Have you found that the excess weight that you've been carrying is starting to fall off on its own accord? Have you found that you no longer feel so up and down because your energy levels seem more stable or have even increased? Have you found that you've been able to think more clearly, etc., etc.? By paying close attention to how we feel and function from moment to moment, we can work out which fasting method is best for us. So before you jump onto the next fad diet, in order to get healthy, please give intermittent fasting a go. Not only will it save you time and energy and money, but it may also even save your life. So how often do you practice intermittent fasting?
Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to learn more about the other essential attributes of staying in your best shape. And until next time, watch what you chew, do what you need to do, and always live true.